Hello, I'm Gary Pitts. I'm with the assessment team in Haiti for All Hands Volunteers. 5 days ago, Hurricane Matthew went across the east coast of Haiti and caused extensive damage, and we're here to find out just how much damage there is. We arrived in the area around 24 hours after the storm had passed. We've travelled across the length of the country and made it to most of the affected areas. At the moment, the latest statistics say that there's around 750,000 people in need of assistance in some way or another. There's been 336 confirmed deaths as of the last report, which is yesterday. That is expected to rise as more information is coming in from various sources. As we've driven down from Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of Haiti, we've seen various types of damage. The first type of damage we saw was really from water, from rivers bursting the banks and flooding the local areas. This led to, in some cases, people's houses just becoming inundated with water, which meant that their belongings become soaked, which is obviously a terrible situation for them. There's also a group of people in those areas where they're actually still living in temporary accommodation or shelters which were put up for them after the earthquake in 2010. Some of those shelters was destroyed, so again, for those people it's just an ongoing saga for them, which this really has made no better for them. One of the things that's been evident as we've driven throughout the area has been that many people have lost a lot of belongings or are trying to salvage all the belongings they can. It's kind of like a patchwork as you drive through the towns and villages, and you see people drying their belongings, their clothes, everything they have, and trying to rescue what they can. We've stopped and spoken to a lot of people as we've gone through. There's been a guy that we spoke to called Jean who told us the story of how he had to run to his neighbour's house through the winds and the rains because the roof was just torn off of his house, and he was terrified. We heard even before we got into the areas where the winds were the worst, but people were too scared to leave their house for nearly 2 days just because of the wind and the rain, and they just kind of stayed inside and huddled out of the storm. One of the main things that's going to really affect in the long term the population here is the loss of crops. In the area where we're stood now, which is an area called Kai, which is one of the main villages around the affected area. It's actually the only place where we can get mobile internet to perform this broadcast. But in Okai and the surrounding areas, they're saying that 100% of crops have been lost. That's really important for the people that rely on those crops to eat on a daily basis. So that's therefore going to mean that they now rely on aid. A population which are already in a bad situation now have an extra dependency due to this storm. Today we drove up to a town called Jeremy. Jeremy is pretty much in the path of the eye of the storm, or the closest town to that. On the way we went across a mountainous area. We stopped and asked many people on the way just kind of how they were doing and what they'd been through. There was one lady called Rosalind who we met. She was a 28-year-old widow. She had 6 kids, and they lived in a small house which is now basically kind of 6 sticks in the ground. So that was really sad to see. She doesn't have access to water. She's drinking from a stream where there was a mudslide that went into it, so the water's really murky, and they're not sure if it's safe to drink or not. They go into the toilet in bushes, and they're staying with friends, so they have a roof over their heads, but they listed as the most important thing they need right now is shelter. So that's something we're going to look into and see what we can do. In fact, that story was something that was repeated as we went through the areas again and again. We stopped and asked everyone, what's the main things you need? Let us help you pass on this information, even if it's something we can't do ourselves. And the story came back with basically the same 3 things: shelter, food, and water. interestingly, we asked them, you're putting shelter first, is that the case? And they all said yes. So that's obviously a great need and something that we will look at. Many of these people have seen kind of aid trucks go past in the last couple of days. To explain why that is, access has been really tough. We've been kind of battling the elements to get down here. I hope the rental company that we took our 4x4 from never see this. We've had to kind of ford rivers and drive up mountains and all sorts. The access routes have been really hard. It rained for 5 days around the storm itself. So kind of Thursday morning, I think it was, the rain stopped. And the day after that, we were able to cross a place called Petit Wharf, where the bridge had been taken out. That's kind of, there's only one main highway that links Port-au-Prince with the affected area, and that stopped people from being able to get to that affected area. So we were able to cross that a couple of days ago, and we've been exploring this area since. But we've been back and forth a couple of times, and each time there's different big trucks stuck in it, or issues such as that. Then there's roads that have been destroyed because of large amounts of water rushing down them. Yesterday we went out to see a hospital in the area to make sure they were okay and we couldn't help them. And to get to there was an arduous journey. It was really hard driving because the road had been basically destroyed. So that's something that they're working on. Thankfully they've got some support to be able to rebuild that road. It's going to be really important for them getting the patients back into there safely, quickly. We came across other problems due to transport issues as well, such as there was a lady that we spoke to in one of the houses where we stopped, and her family actually explained to us that she's been sick since the storm. She kind of swelled up and they don't know what's wrong with her, but they just have no way of getting her out of where she is and to a nearest hospital. So again, hopefully that's something that we can pass on to people. In summary, it's still early days here. Aid is starting to get to the areas where it needs to be, but you know, the people distributing that aid need the time to kind of position things and work out how they're going to distribute it to the people that need it, because sometimes those people are in areas where it's very hard to access. In the upcoming days, hopefully that will improve a lot. We're going to continue with our assessment here and work out how we can help and continue to explore the areas that have been affected. That's all I have to say for the moment. I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.